Good afternoon. Regular meeting number 41 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Monsignor Cody.
Let us pray. Gracious and merciful God, Columbus City Council members gather at the end of this legislative year looking forward to the August vacation, but also aware of all that must be accomplished in this evening's session. We especially remember in prayer all those attending the Ohio State Fair in Columbus, and especially remember those who were injured and the young man who died in the fairway accident last week. We pray for the injured, that they may heal soon, and we pray for the young man who perished. May he rest in peace. And may his family and friends find comfort and consolation in our concern and prayer for them. In these troubled times, Lord, we turn to you to seek your wisdom and your guidance. May the members of this council find rest and refreshment in this August recess and come back in September rested and eager to address the needs of the citizens of our great city. In all this, we ask your blessing. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Monsignor. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano. President Klein.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stinziano. President Klein.
This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda. They'll be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
How about resolutions from members of council? Councilmember Elizabeth Brown.
Thank you, President Klein. I just have a quick announcement. On Thursday, August 10th, the Columbus Restaurant Alliance is hosting a self-defense training class for people in the restaurant and food service industry, students and others interested in learning self-defense skills. The event will be from 4 to 6 p.m. at Highline Car House, located at 550 South High Street. Restaurant workers, whether bussing tables or working behind the bar, often get off late at night and can feel uncomfortable traveling alone back to their car or transit. The Restaurant Alliance, observing this issue for many of their small businesses and their employees, is putting on this event to learn best practices in these situations so that workers can feel confident and in control. The event is available for workers, but also for anyone else who finds themselves in these circumstances and is interested in learning these techniques. I will be attending the event to support it, and anyone is welcome to join me. Thanks, President Klein.
Councilmember Mitch Brown.
Thank you, President. Tonight I have a few announcements. May I please have Mr. Fred Myers and his wife approach the podium? On behalf of the Columbus City Council, I would like to commend and thank Fred Myers for his 40 years of service to the City of Columbus. Fred began his career under Mayor Tom Moody as the lead for drafting, graphics, photography, and print operations for the Department of Development and the Mayor's Office. During the Reinhardt administration, Fred relocated to the Department of Technology and then the Purchasing Office to increase the efficiency of the city's printing and copying operation. He continued to design upon request with projects ranging from the city directory, the employee newsletter, print materials for every department's communication staff, and even a sign placed in Alaska displaying the distance to Columbus. In addition, he coordinated the city government display at the Ohio State Fair, presented a display for government economic development in Washington, D.C., and a project to promote electric-powered vehicles. Under Mayor LaShaka, he worked on a Stop Government Unfunded Mandates campaign that received national media attention. Working in procurement for the Coleman and Ginther administration, Fred has had the opportunity to work with technology, recreation and parks, public safety departments, ensuring each department has had everything they need to serve the residents in Columbus. Facts associated with the situation in public safety, Fred worked on uniforms for police, fire, body armor, weapons, safety apparel, and supplies. He most recently worked on an RFP for the police patrol mountain bikes, which is on the agenda for this evening. Fred is a huge Buckeye fan, volunteering at the university for over 35 football seasons. On behalf of City Council, I would like to thank Fred for his dedication and wish him a happy, fulfilling retirement. Fred, before I turn it over to you, Director Lombardi, would you like to make a few comments, sir?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Brown. I've had the pleasure of working with Fred for 27 and a half years of his 40. And Fred has one thing that I don't, and that's a calmness about him. That was always good to work with. He also taught us a lot of things as young bucks when we first came on. And I'm hoping it wasn't because I was the director that he's retiring. I'm hoping it was because he wanted to go and enjoy himself, and he and his wife Judy and their family. But I will always say one thing about Fred Myers is that he always had the city, the taxpayers' best interests in mind, everything that he did. And he is a man of integrity and ethics. You're not going to find one any better than Fred. Thank you.
With that, Fred, the floor is yours.
Well, Council President Klein, council members, elected officials, and appointed positions, I'm proud, I'm privileged to have worked for the city of Columbus, and I feel very honored for my 40 years. Thank you for helping me celebrate that. I'd like to thank my wife for her support and love over all the years.
46, I believe.
46 years and more to come.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
For everyone, I've worked with Fred for a number of years, and though we didn't always agree, we always had the best interest of the city of Columbus at heart. And from me personally, I want to say thank you for your dedication. It is truly appreciated.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Also, President, tomorrow evening marks the 34th annual Night Out. National Night Out is a great opportunity for law enforcement officers and neighbors to strengthen and build their relationships within the community. I encourage all residents to attend their neighborhood events. If you need assistance, and you are welcome to call my office at 614-645-4605. And also, in addition, I would like to extend an invitation to all veterans and citizens to the Purple Heart Way dedication being held at the corner of Broad and Front Streets on Friday, August 4th at 10:30. That's all I have this evening, President Klein.
Thank you, President Klein. I do have one resolution this evening, Resolution 0212X-2017, to recognize Monday, July 31st as National Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And I would first like to move for adoption.
Brown, Harden, Page, Tenziano, President Klein.
Resolution adopted. Thank you. I would now like to ask Representative Stephanie House if she could come down to the podium. And as she is coming, National Black Women's Equal Pay Day. She will give you more information on what this is. And again, I'm happy that we are having this conversation, but it's an unfortunate conversation that we're still having it today, July 31st, 2017, where women, and particularly women of color, are still not receiving equal pay for doing the same work as their male counterparts. So thank you, Representative House, for bringing this conversation to the forefront. I think we had a wonderful discussion today, and hopefully people will move forward with a lot of the ideas that they came up with. And the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you to President Klein, Councilwoman Page, Councilman Stenziano, Councilwoman Brown, and Councilman Harden. First, let me thank you all for actually participating today in the roundtable that was co-hosted with my wonderful colleague, Councilwoman Page. But today, July 31st, Equal Pay Day is actually a reflection of the 19 months that Black women have to work to earn just as much as their white male, non-Hispanic men that they worked and they earned in 12 months. And, you know, we talked about what that actually means for our economy over a lifetime, how it impacts households, how it impacts our retirement, and really the pressures it actually will put on government systems when you think about what you'll have to do to support people as they go and they get into their golden ages. And so within here, I thank this body for actually taking the time to recognize Black Women's Equal Pay Day, and will really encourage, and hopefully there could be some partnership between our local Columbus and the State House to actually putting some things in place to provide protection. So thank you all so much for all that you do, and I really look forward to continuing the work in the coming weeks, months, years ahead.
Thank you so much, Representative House. Are there any additional comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Klein. I do have one quick announcement this evening. Happy to share with my colleagues, the audience, and those watching at home that the application for the Changing Station Grant is now live. As you'll remember, we did pass an ordinance recently to secure the funding for the program. And thank you to the leadership of Director Orth, also a person to know in the technology field in Central Ohio, Tom Diamond and the Department of Technology. We're ready to receive applicants that are interested in providing the equal access to parents of different sexes to baby-changing accommodations in public service establishments throughout Columbus. For those small businesses and organizations interested, you can visit www.columbus.gov/changingstation to apply. Thank you, President Klein.
Thank you, Councilmember Stenziano. Are there any comments by Auditor Dorian, Treasurer's Office, City Attorney's Office? I don't see anyone from the Municipal Court here this evening. Seeing none. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of any items on the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing that there is no request, may we now have a motion to waive second reading of titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Thank you. Clerk Blevins, will you now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance Committee, ordinances 1897, 1968, 2030, 2068, 2090-2017. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1527, 1893, 1922, 1931, 1938, 1952, 1963, 1972, and 2027-2017.
Thank you, Clerk. As a housekeeping matter, may I now have a motion to waive second reading on all the items just read? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Thank you. That motion carries. The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will Clerk please read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of expression 210X, 213X, 214X, 204X, 205, X206, X215, X216X, 209X, 208X, 211X-2017. Finance Committee, ordinances 1737, 1864, 1895, 1896, 1928, 1977, 1984, 1990, 1995, 2001, 2009, 2012-2017. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinances 1870, 1951, 1978, 1988, 1989, and 2013-2017. Economic Development Committee, ordinance 2049-2017. Public Safety Committee, ordinances 1863, 1930, 2017, 2034, and 2035-2017. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 198X-2017, ordinances 2089, 2092, 2110-2017. Small and Minority Business Development Committee, ordinance 1299-2017. Neighborhoods Committee, ordinance 2085-2017. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 1556, 1890, 1892, and 2116-2017. Housing Committee, ordinances 1291, 1510, 1955, 1956, 1957, 1958, 1959, 1960, 1964, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, 2028, 2045, 2053, 2054, and 2065-2017. Technology Committee, ordinances 1976, 1985, 1994, 2016-2017. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1428, 1431, 1650, 1651, 1652, 1680, 1763, 1775, 1799, 1800, 1809, 1820, 1836, 1872, 1997, 2014, and 2031-2017. Appointments from the Mayor's Office, numbered A0125, 126, 127, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 154-2017.
Thank you. We do have one speaker on the consent. It's Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, please come forward. It appears that you're speaking against 2065-2017 in the Housing Committee. If you could state your name, any organizations you represent, your address, you have 3 minutes.
Chairman of solely vacant property in North Linden area. My name is Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins, 1612 Arlington Avenue. Once again, I am against demolition is because we are losing a lot of the historical properties in all over Columbus, Ohio. And it doesn't give any homes a second chance once again. But again, we have other property that's still owned by private entities that still sits as rotted and fallen in and disrepaired. As a prime example here of 1617 Arlington Avenue, it still sits like this after 10 to 20 years. And also another property here, you know, we all talked about demolition properties when a property owner has come dead. You know, we want to try to get them in somebody else's hand to bring second life to these homes once again. Because one time or another, these homes was beautiful and occupied once again. It's a shame to not to redevelop these homes again to be low-income individual in houses. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wilkins? Director Shoney?
Thank you, Council President Klein, members of council. This ordinance is for the city to be able to go to those property owners for whom we've had to tear down buildings in emergency situations and assess them for the cost of that demolition. So this isn't to fund new demolitions. This is to recapture expenses that we have had to incur on behalf of private property owners.
Thank you, Director. Any other follow-up commentary or questions for Director Shoney? Seeing none, can I get a motion for approval of the consent items? Is there a second? Clerk call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
We'll now proceed, consent agenda carries. We'll now proceed to the second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. In President Pro Tem Tyson's absence, I'm going to turn the floor over to Councilmember Hardin.
Thank you, President Klein. This evening in the Finance Committee, we have Ordinance 1993-2017 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into one universal term contract for the option to purchase patrol mountain bicycles, associated accessories and parts with Volcanic Manufacturing, LLC, DBA Volcanic Bikes, and to waive provisions of the City Code related to competitive bidding, to authorize expenditure of $1 to establish the contract from the general fund and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is for the option to purchase safety patrol bikes, associated accessories, and replacement parts to be used by the Columbus Division of Police. And I think that Councilmember Brown will be bringing this legislation up to support this. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2105-2017 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into contract for the option to purchase personal safety products with the following companies: Genco Safety Supply, Inc., Applied Industrial Technologies, Granger, and Fastenal Company, and to waive the applicable competitive bidding requirements of City Code, Chapter 329, and to authorize the expenditure of $4 to establish the contract from the general fund and to declare an emergency. Ordinance establishes 4 UTCs for the purchase of safety equipment for the City of Columbus employees. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Thank you. If you go back to page 3 of our first reading, we have Ordinance 1897-2017 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into 3 universal term contracts for the option to purchase specialty automotive and equipment parts and services from CJM Solutions, LLC, Finley Fire Equipment Company, Inc., and Utility Truck Equipment, Inc., in accordance with the sole source provisions of the Columbus City Code, and to authorize the expenditure of $3 from the general fund. The Division of Fleet Management will use these contracts to purchase fleet-specific vehicles, trucks, and equipment parts for city vehicles. Director Lombardi, is there anything more to add?
Thank you, President Klein, Councilmember Hardin, members of council. The reason why we are submitting this as a sole source, in our research, these 3 manufacturers are the only service providers in the regional area for these types of vehicles, and so that's why we are submitting them as sole source.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Thank you. Next, I have Ordinance 1968-2017 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contract for the option to purchase irrigation parts with Site 1 Landscape Supply, LLC, and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to establish the contract from the general fund. These irrigation parts are used on irrigation systems throughout city parks, golf courses, and nurseries, as well as on our athletic fields. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2030-2017 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to execute a lease agreement with AARP Foundation for office space leased at 1393 East Broad Street. AARP Foundation has been a tenant in the Model Neighborhoods building since 2007. This new lease will be for a 3-year term with 1 renewal option for an additional 3 years. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2068-2017 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into contract for the option to purchase ADS flow monitoring parts and services with ADS LLC, and to authorize the expenditure of $1 to establish the contract from the general fund. The Division of Sewage and Drainage uses flow monitors to observe and track the flow of stormwater throughout the city's sewage system. This UTC will allow for the purchase of parts and services relating to upkeep and monitoring of the flow monitors. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, I have ordinance 2090-2017 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into 2 contracts for the option to purchase specific and unique refuse container replacement parts. One for Total Refuse Container Parts with Best Equipment, Inc., and one for Victor Stanley Can Liners with Victor Stanley, Inc., both in accordance with the sole source provision of the Columbus City Code, and to authorize the expenditure of $2 from the general fund. Public Service will use these contracts to purchase specific and unique refuse container replacement parts used on 64 and 96-gallon containers, as well as can liners used in metal trash bins used in city parks. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Council President, is it all right to move to Public Service? All right, in Public Service and Transportation Committee, we have ordinance 2093-2017 to authorize the Columbus Partnership to enter into a contract with Citivus Now relative to the implementation of the Smart Columbus Ride and Drive Roadshow Plan, and to waive the competitive bidding requirements of Columbus City Code and to declare an emergency. When Columbus won the Smart Cities Challenge, we were awarded 2 grants, one from the United States Department of Transportation and the other from the Paul Allen Family Foundation, or Vulcan. Vulcan's goal is to lay a practical path to replace carbon-based fuel consumption. Despite the President's decision to leave the Paris Accord, climate change will continue to negatively impact Columbus residents, especially working-class folks and people of color. This ordinance authorizes the Columbus Partnership as a subrecipient of the Vulcan grant to enter into contract with Citivus Now for the implementation of the Smart Columbus Ride and Drive Roadshow Plan. I know Ms. Brandy Braun from Smart Columbus is here. Yeah, would you come up and speak to this contract? And it's actually also, and the bid waiver as well.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Hardin, Council President Klein, members of council. You did a phenomenal introduction to this piece of legislation. So as part of the Paul G. Allen Family Foundation's grant to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we have a 5-point plan. And one of those points is to drive consumer adoption of electric vehicles. And one of the ways the Columbus Partnership will do that is through hiring Civitas Now to plan and implement a series of ride and drives at public and private places so that people can learn more about Smart Columbus, our electrification goals, and also test drive electric vehicles. We are requesting a formal bid waiver. We're learning this public-private partnership process as we go along. So the partnership did post the RFP. We just didn't get it officially onto the city bulletin, but we will change that for the next contract they post for.
Thank you, Ms. Brandy. So like Ms. Braun said, the bid for the contract was publicly posted but was not posted on the city bulletin as city code requires. Thus, a bid waiver is being requested to keep up with Vulcan's schedule for grant deliverables. So I thank you so much. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage. Thank you, Ms. Braun.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
And is it all right to move to Small Minority Business, President? In Small and Minority Business Committee, we have ordinance 2008-2017 to authorize the appropriation of $60,000 from the Urban Site Acquisition Loan Fund to authorize the Director of Development to enter into contract with the Increased Community Development Corporation for the purpose of administering a micro-enterprise training program, and to authorize the expenditure of $60,000 from the Urban Site Acquisition Loan Fund and to declare an emergency. The city contracts with training providers across Columbus to give entrepreneurs access to workshops and courses. This is a $60,000 contract for the administration of the city's micro-enterprise training. A microenterprise is a small business with between 1 and 5 employees. These trainings will allow budding entrepreneurs to grow their small business and employ Columbus residents. I have been very impressed with Increase CDC over the last couple years as chair of this committee. They're doing good work, especially with these microenterprises, with these small businesses, and great entree into starting a new business. I've seen a lot of folks to Increase. Director, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Chair Hart and President Klein, members of council. This is, again, one of my favorite programs to work with. We're often here talking about well-formed companies that range all across the scale. I guess it'd be fair to say tonight I'm going to be talking about the extremes of the spectrum. This is for folks who've got an idea about how to start a business. It doesn't have to be a technology-related business. It doesn't have to be a high-growth business. This is, I have a great idea where I think I can take control of my financial future and my destiny, and I want to do it, and this is a way we help. And so we're really excited about the legislation, and thanks for your continued partnership.
Thank you, Director, and I see Jakeithia with Increase here. Thank you guys for the work that you're doing, especially with the cultural competency with small and emerging businesses in our community. If there are no more questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Legislation passes.
That is all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Chair Hardin. The next committee is Health and Human Services. In Council President Pro Tem Tyson's absence, Councilmember Elizabeth Brown will read that legislation. Chair Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. In Health and Human Services tonight, we are starting with Ordinance 2046-2017 to approve the funding request of Life Care Alliance seeking financial assistance to address an emergency human service need pursuant to Columbus City Code, to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with Life Care Alliance to support the Columbus Detection and Outreach Program, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure of $25,000 within the Emergency Human Services Subfund, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Life Care Alliance. In March of this year, Central Ohio Diabetes Association merged with Life Care Alliance to form a partnership that is dedicated to delivering health care service to Columbus and Central Ohio. CODA will implement, CODA, not COTA, will implement the Detection and Outreach Program, which provides services to low-income or uninsured residences to reduce their risk for diabetes and its complications. Emergency action is necessary to avoid causing interruptions in the delivery of program services. Are there any questions for my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2050-2017 to approve the funding request of Community Kitchen seeking financial assistance to address an emergency human service need pursuant to Columbus City Code, to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with Community Kitchen to support the general operating costs of providing services to the community, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure of $20,000 from the Emergency Human Services Subfund, and to declare an emergency. Community Kitchen has operated continuously since 1979 and as a separate 501c3 since 1985. Community Kitchen helps low or no-income persons with food, advocacy, and other basic necessities. Hot, nutritious, and free meals are offered 6 days a week, along with information and referrals on available housing, utility assistance, alcohol and drug programs, emergency assistance, health resources, and basic needs. Free phone service for businesses and medical calls, toiletries, and household items when available. Free health checkups are provided on-site through the OSU nursing program and Columbus Health Department. Emergency action is needed on this piece of legislation to avoid causing interruptions in the delivery of program services. Are there any questions for my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
President Klein, may I move to economic development? In economic development tonight, we are starting with Ordinance 1917-2017. We have one speaker against the ordinance, Mr. Joe Motil. You may approach the microphone. To authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into an enterprise zone agreement with 1201 Dublin Road LLC and the Zimmerman Companies LLC for a tax abatement of 75% for a period of 10 consecutive years in consideration of a total proposed capital investment of approximately $5.3 million, the creation of 6 new full-time permanent positions, and the retention of 6 full-time positions. 1201 Dublin Road LLC is a real estate company formed by a father-daughter partnership earlier this year. They are planning to relocate their headquarters from Nationwide Boulevard to the Zahner Bloger building. The capital investment of more than $5 million is for property improvements associated with this move. The company will retain and relocate 6 full-time employees and create 6 new full-time employees with hourly wages ranging from $14.42 to $31.25. Before I turn it over to you, Mr. Motil, sorry to make you stand there.
That's okay.
Director Shoney, can you give us a little bit of background on this project from your staff perspective in the department?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Brown, President Klein, members of council. This is an effort to not only keep this one business in the city, but also to take a property that is in need of some updating. It is a office building that's in a good location, but is a bit dated and could use some updating and make it an attractive opportunity to attract other businesses to the city of Columbus.
Beyond the portion that the company will be inhabiting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Motil.
Thank you.
Name, address, affiliation, you know the drill.
Sure. Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road, Columbus. President Klein, Chairwoman Brown, members of the City Council. As a resident of Clintonville for 47 years, I'm certainly appreciative of the Zimmerman family's previous long-term commitment to providing what was such a significant part of thousands of Clintonville residents' lives by operating the Olympic swimming pool. I have countless memories myself of spending much of my summer vacation during my youth at Olympic. But due to the high cost of operating a neighborhood pool and less interest in the competition for other activities by today's youth and their parents, the pool closed. The property was purchased by the granddaughter of the original owners, Miss April Zimmerman Katz, who was married to developer and member of the City of Columbus's Downtown Commission, Mr. Kyle Katz. He was first appointed to the commission by former Mayor Michael Coleman, and his appointment was approved by members of the Columbus City Council. The Olympic pool property has been transformed into a 114 apartment unit known as the Deco, and was of course developed by Miss Zimmerman Katz's husband, Kyle Katz. And although this tax abatement pales in comparison to the multi-million-dollar tax abatements that are typically rewarded to campaign-contributing developer friends and million and billion-dollar corporations that are just looking to fatten their profit margins, this tax abatement reeks of political exchange for thousands of dollars in campaign contributions to current elected city officials and the loyalty to this and past administration's downtown development policies by Mr. Katz. Why else do you give a company that has obviously succeeded in real estate and development to the point where they are financially able to move from office space on Nationwide Boulevard and purchase a $3.8 million building, spend another $1 million for improvements? Or is it because they are not going to lay off any of their 6 current workers? Or is it due to the boom in real estate, apartment building, and a strong economy in Central Ohio that they feel that they are going to be able to increase their number of employees by just 6? Or is it just because they are going to spend $360,000 on necessities like new office furniture and fixtures since they are moving into a new building, which is needed? But of course, they are in an enterprise zone, which was stated, which makes them eligible for a tax abatement. And why in the world is this section of Dublin Road declared an enterprise zone when you consider its location to downtown Columbus? So we hand them $250,000 at $25,000 a year for 10 years, and this is our way of saying thank you for making money and being successful in our great city. I've never seen such an abuse and free spending of our tax dollars than this ongoing granting of corporate welfare and political payback that occurs here in this council chambers on nearly a weekly basis. When is it going to stop? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motil. Any questions for my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2004-2017 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest on an investment fund loan due to the City of Columbus totaling approximately $342,000 $22,432, to authorize the director to enter into contract with Columbus Housing Partnership, doing business as Homeport, to allow the funds to be allocated to operating costs to the extent of $67,432, and to direct the remaining proceeds into an affordable senior housing project in the American Addition neighborhood of Columbus, and to declare an emergency. In 1992, Star High Limited Partnership obtained a loan of $275,000 in city investment funds with a 1% interest rate from the city of Columbus for the acquisition of the real property at 989 through 997 North High Street in the Short North community. Back, I think, when it was an NCR district. Is that right? In 1993, Star High obtained a loan of $307,613 in city's home funds with 0% interest for the rehab of the project, and it has been providing 35 units of affordable housing for eligible residents since that time. Per City Ordinance 0128-2017, Star High Limited Partnership, an affiliate of Homeport, has sold the building and wishes to reinvest the proceeds from the sale in a new senior housing development within the American Addition neighborhood. City Ordinance 0128-2017, which dealt with the home fund loan, stipulated that the loan of city investment funds would be repaid in full. In light of the urgent need to provide affordable senior housing in the North Central neighborhood and for minimizing the total costs related to site acquisition and project development, this legislation will allow Homeport to utilize the repayments that would otherwise come to the city's investment fund, including the principal and accrued interest now in an escrow account, to be reinvested in the American Addition project. Any questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2029-2017 to create the Milo Grogan Community Reinvestment Area and to authorize real property tax exemptions as established in sections 3735.65 to 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, and to declare an emergency. The goal of a community reinvestment area is to revitalize and stabilize Milo Grogan. It accomplishes that by encouraging the remodeling of existing buildings for residential use and the construction of new residential and commercial structures. This helps to increase economic stability, maintain real property values, and generate new employment opportunities in the neighborhood. Director, since community reinvestment areas, CRAs, are long-term commitments, can you please comment on the emergency nature of this legislation?
Thank you, Chair Brown, President Klein, members of council. We want to move forward on this expeditiously because the developer is ready to move forward with the project. We're excited to get going and building more affordable housing within the Milo Grogan area. They're ready to pull permits and start doing some things, so we would like to take this forward as emergency.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2103-2017 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into contract with Greater Columbus Sister Cities in support of activities celebrating the sister city relationship between Columbus and Genoa, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. Genoa is Columbus's first sister city. This legislation has been championed by President Pro Tem Priscilla Tyson, and that the sister city relationship was formalized in 1955. As stated in the title, we are currently in the process of working together with Genoa on several events to celebrate this relationship. Councilmember Stinziano is also a sponsor of this request. I believe you have something you want to add, and you requested to take this out of consent to plug up a special event here in Columbus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as you highlighted, Genoa is our oldest sister city, and so there's an effort to highlight and do a number of events. One of those events this year will be a regional pesto championship, which will be hosted by the Italian Festival on October 8th, 2017. The winner of the regional pesto championship will be eligible to represent Columbus as a competitor in the Pesto World Championship in Genoa, Italy on March 17th, 2018. The application for the competition will be hosted on the Sister Cities website and will go live on August 8th. Because we'll be on break and won't have the opportunity to highlight it, that's why I wanted to take the time to do that. Anybody can apply to compete as long as they're at least 18, are not employed by a commercial pesto producer, I don't think any of our colleagues are, and are available to compete at the Pesto World Championship in Genoa in March 2018. The event will take place, again, at the Italian Festival on October 8th. It will be the closing event and will be held on the main stage. The 10 competitors will have a half hour to prepare their own pesto, followed by judging a jury of 5 members. The winners of the competition will win the right to represent Columbus at the World Pesto Championship. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to highlight that unique feature to a wonderful festival and relationship that we have with our sister city.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Are there any questions or comments? I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
That's all I have in economic development. May I move to administration? All right, so in administration this evening, we have 8 ordinances. I'm going to tell you about them all at once and then read the titles and for passage separately. These 8 ordinances represent months of work with our collective bargaining units in the city of Columbus to formalize the paid family leave program that we announced, that the city announced earlier this year. As many of you know, we have collective bargaining units here in the city which each independently bargain their contracts with our HR department and with the city. And each have different tweaks in their policies and their procedures. And so this is a series of MOUs to provide the same uniform benefit to all collective bargaining units so that the paid family leave program is easy to utilize from an employee's perspective. I want to thank Director Brandon and her team for the hard work they did in this. I know it's not easy to work through in the same year that you are renegotiating all of the contracts. So thank you very much. I also want to thank our union presidents, President of AFSCME, AFSCME Council 8, Local 1632, President Chip Moore, President of CWA, Local 4502, President Dave McCune, the city employee representative for FOP OLC, Amy Amstutz, the International Firefighters Union Local 67, President Dave Montgomery, and the President of the Fraternal Order of Police Capital City Lodge 9, Jason Pappas. I want to thank all of them for their work with us to get this done. Are there any questions from my colleagues before I move through the 8? Yes.
Just very briefly, Madam Chair, I want to thank you for your leadership on this issue. I know about 18 months ago we talked about priorities, and this was one of those, and it was a long time coming. Little patience had to be exerted, but as you highlighted, the leadership and the work you did with all those different representatives with the administration, very appreciated. So just want to personally thank you for your role in getting us to this point.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Chair.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you. I want to piggyback what Councilmember Stinziano said. I know this was an enormous lift to pull off in your first years and days on council, but it is something when you first joined council that it was a priority for you, and kudos in your tenure thus far on bringing together an initiative in conjunction with Mayor Ginther, his administration, Director Brandon, as well as all the collective bargaining units in order to provide paid family leave for all working families in the city of Columbus that work for the city, and certainly setting examples along with many of the other employers in the city and in Franklin County of just how important an initiative like this is to take care of loved ones, to take care of children, so that families can have the economic opportunities that they deserve. So hats off to you on an enormous lift, and congratulations for the work that you've done.
Thank you so much. Since you all started talking about it, I do want to point out that one of the systemic reasons one can surmise for the pay gap between men and women, which is especially bad for Black women, Latina women, is the expectation that women take on caregiving duties and the sort of stubborn refusal of the system of workplaces to catch up with what families need now when households are increasingly dual income or single parent income, increasingly women heads of households. So I just wanted to mention that to tie it into Councilmember Jaiza Page's resolution for to recognize Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And the more that we modernize our workplaces, the more equal we'll see pay for Black women, for Latina women, for all women. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, we're going to start in here with Ordinance 2130-2017 to accept Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-09 and Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-10 executed between representatives of the City of Columbus and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Ohio Council 8, Local 1632, or AFSCME 1632, which amends the collective bargaining agreement April 1st, 2017 through March 31st, 2020, and to declare an emergency. Hearing no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, we have Ordinance 2133-2017 to accept Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-02 and Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-03 executed between representatives of the City of Columbus and the Communications Workers of America, Local 4502, which amends the collective bargaining agreement April 24th, 2014 through April 23rd, 2017, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, Ordinance 2135-2017 to accept Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-01 and Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-02 executed between representatives of the City of Columbus and the Fraternal Order of Police Ohio Labor Council, FOP-OLC, which amends the collective bargaining agreement June 16, 2017 through June 15, 2020, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2136-2017 to accept Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-02 and Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-03 executed between representatives of the City of Columbus and the Columbus Firefighters Union Local number 67, which amends the collective bargaining agreement November 1st, 2014 through October 31st, 2017, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2123-2017 to amend the Management Compensation Plan Ordinance number 2713-2013 as amended by enacting Section 10J and Section 10K and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2137-2017 to accept Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-01 and Memorandum of Understanding number 2017-02 executed between representatives of the City of Columbus and the Fraternal Order of Police Capital City Lodge number 9, which amends the collective bargaining agreement December 9, 2014 through December 8, 2017, and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2150-2017 to amend the Fire Management Compensation Plan Ordinance number 2714-2013 as amended by enacting Section 13E and Section 13F and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2151-2017 to amend the Police Management Compensation Plan Ordinance number 2715-2013 as amended by enacting Section 10J and Section 10K and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Thank you very much. I have two ordinances and rules and reference. May I do them now or do we wait?
It's your decision.
I would like to do them now.
Okay.
All right. Tonight I am sponsoring Ordinance 1970-2017 in Rules and Reference to amend various sections of Chapter 329 of the Columbus City Codes regarding environmentally preferred purchasing and to enact additional criteria in Section 329.2.211 related to the construction pre-qualification process, with these changes to be effective January 1st, 2018. and to repeal the existing sections being amended. The City of Columbus is committed to being socially and environmentally responsible with the purchases it makes and the companies it contracts with. This ordinance highlights that commitment by improving the environmentally preferred purchasing program to help ensure the city purchases environmentally sustainable and safe products. The ordinance also adds the hiring of disadvantaged workers, such as restored citizens, to the factors considered during the pre-qualification process for companies who bid on city construction contracts. A restored citizen is an individual who has returned to the community following a period of incarceration. More than 1,500 people return to Franklin County from an Ohio prison each year and face the difficult task of securing employment and housing. Encouraging career opportunities for restored citizens is a win-win proposition for our community. It helps businesses tap into a talent pool they may not have previously considered, and it helps individuals secure employment who otherwise struggle to find a job. In 2012, the City of Columbus created the Restoration Academy, a 4 to 6 month program that provides paid work experience, on-the-job training, and supportive services for restored citizens. The ultimate goal of the program is to reduce the recidivism rate by connecting its graduates with permanent employment, and to help ensure that people who are released from prison aren't, in essence, asked to serve a second sentence after they've already paid their debt to society. Ordinance 1970-2017 is another step in Columbus's continuing work to ensure that all our residents have a fair shot to share in our city's prosperity. I want to thank Mayor Ginther and Director Lombardi for your commitment to working on this important issue, as well as the many community organizations who provided valuable insight and feedback and activism throughout the process of creating this ordinance, including BREAD, Alvis House, Impact Community Action, the Columbus Urban League, and the Vincentian Ohio Action League. I know we have one speaker in support of this ordinance tonight, Mr. Norm Wernett, a member of BREAD who has been a part of the advocacy efforts for this ordinance. Mr. Wernett, if you can state your name and address and any organization, even though I already did all that for you, any organization you're affiliated with.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown, Council President Klein, members of City Council. I'm Norm Wernett. I'm a member of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church at 34 West Woodruff Avenue here in the city of Columbus. I'm part of the BREAD's Higher and Better Pay, Don't Throw Away Committee, here in support of Ordinance SR 29, 1970-2017. Councilwoman Tyson last week reminded us all that Columbus is a leader throughout the country, working with citizens returning to our communities. She cited the Restoration Academy, as you just did. We would add that the city's ban on hiring the box policy and the job placement initiatives for returning citizens also demonstrate the city's leadership in moving to reintegrate those with misdemeanor and felonies back into our society and into our workforce. We applaud the City Council for advancing this ordinance today because it takes a major step forward and begins changing the culture in the private sector of throwing away those who have offended our laws, have spent time in the criminal justice system, and returned to our community. We applaud the mayor and the city administration for working with the City Council and BREAD on this ordinance to build in a new incentive to reverse exclusionary hiring practices. The ordinance will add additional criteria, as was just described by Councilwoman Brown. We see that this is a win for the city in its economic development goals, since there are some 34,000 jobs that go wanting in the city of Columbus. BREAD and our congregations recognize the creative tension that this ordinance places on the City Department of Finance and Management, and the hiring practices of the construction industry, both unionized and non-unionized. We understand the city is engaged in additional efforts to include more in our workforce. That tension is a sign of growth for all of us. BREAD looks forward to working with the city and its administration and monitoring of this ordinance to achieve the desired outcome, that those disadvantaged and returning citizens have sustainable living wage jobs and truly are allowed to reintegrate and leave behind the trespasses of the past This ordinance exemplifies what forgiveness and redemption mean in my faith tradition. Bread supports the adoption of this ordinance. Bread rises. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any questions from my colleagues?
Well, it's not a question, it's a comment, Chair Brown. Just again, just to thank you for your leadership. We're really proud as a city that we have stepped up to make sure that those who have come back to our community and have pathways to real opportunities to provide for their families and to give back. These steps that you have taken in your leadership provides just another one of those opportunities, and we would not be here without your leadership. And so, again, we say thank you, and thank you for all those community folks who were part of the conversation to get us here. Thank you to the department, and certainly, like you said, the mayor's office for being good partners. It makes me be really proud to serve on a council that lifts up some folks that people think are the least among us, but really have the most to add to our community. So thank you, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. And Councilmember Hardin, you and I held a hearing on these issues a few months ago and heard from a lot of people in the community who support taking this action, and also heard from people who are directly affected by this action, and that was a powerful thing. We had two mothers of men who are currently serving time come down and testify. And I think it was clear from that this is the right next step to take, and it's one of the many steps that still need taken to make sure that everyone can really access our prosperity. So thank you for your support and help and expertise.
Chair.
Any other? Yeah.
Again, recognizing, recognizing the leadership of you and the community on this particular issue. I know that Council and Mayor Ginther has taken a very affirmative step in many areas of the law to work in the criminal justice system and reform it for equal access and opportunity for everyone. But I think this legislation highlights the simple fact that criminal justice reform transcends the courthouse and the prison system. It bleeds into the community, and it bleeds into economic opportunity. In order to have true fairness in the criminal justice system, there needs to be economic opportunity for individuals upon reentry into society. Because as you eloquently noted, Chair Brown, that you're essentially serving a second sentence that is sanctioned by all of us by allowing unfair hiring practices for those who have served their time. And how can we seek true criminal justice reform unless there's equal access for opportunity upon reentry? Otherwise, folks are simply left to return to a previous way of life that may have landed them in the jail to begin with. It's certainly not fair for their children, for themselves, and for their family without having a fair shot of economic success. And certainly this ordinance, in conjunction with the other platform policies that the mayor and that the city council has supported, like the Restoration Academy, is an affirmative step in order to make a difference in that direction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, President Klein. Anything else? I move for passage.
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Thank you.
We generally don't allow applause.
They've been waiting on that one for like a year, though. So next, we have Ordinance 2115-2017 to enact new Section 362.066 of the Columbus City Codes, Economic Development Net Profit Tax Incentive, to provide for the creation of new job opportunities within the city of Columbus and to declare an emergency. This ordinance provides an additional tool for the Department of Development to attract major projects that represent substantial opportunities for job creation in Columbus. And by major, I'm using the technical definition of that. 1,000 jobs, which must pay at least $15 an hour, $50 million in capital investments, $45 million in payroll created. This is a tool that the Department of Development will utilize to attract large-scale investments in the city. It is permissive. It does not mandate the use of the new incentive for any project, but it allows the department to utilize it in its deal exploration and negotiation. Director Shoney, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Chair Brown, President Klein, members of council. As I said earlier, when we were talking about increased CDC, we were talking about companies at the small end of the spectrum. This is for opportunities that we have to pursue literally the largest and best companies in the world. And looking at how do we make our city more competitive for projects that are being chased by every city in the world. This is an opportunity for us to deal with some of the uncertainty that comes for large corporations with our corporate net profits tax, and say to them that if you're going to make a massive investment, employ a massive amount of people, pay them a living wage in our city, it gives us the ability to work out a deal where we have some essentially cost certainty and revenue certainty, frankly, for us. Cost certainty for the company, revenue certainty for us, and really make Columbus an even more attractive place. I do need to also make a point of thanking Mr. Dorian and Mindy Frank in the auditor's office for their help in pulling this together. They have been involved in discussions with us in terms of making sure that we are setting up the legislation in a way that's fair and responsible. One of the provisions that is in the legislation that I want to thank Councilmember Brown for working with us on is putting in that this has a 5-year sunset, so that it forces us to come back to council and look at how it has worked, if it's worked in 5 years. This is a new program. It's a pretty large lever to give us to pull. That's why we wanted to make sure we had the requirement that we come back to council to enact specific deals, and also to have the opportunity, to force the opportunity for the department and the administration and council to revisit this again in 5 years.
Great, thank you, Director Shoney. Auditor Dorian, is there anything you want to add at this time?
Chair Brown, nothing to add. I simply concur with the director's comments. Both of us have put a good deal of time on this, and I certainly agree with your idea to put the sunset provision. Let's give it a chance to work, see if it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Auditor. We do have one speaker in opposition to this ordinance, Mr. Joe Motil. If you would please approach the microphone.
Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road, Columbus. President Klein, Chairwoman Brown, members of City Council. The recent news reports from the Columbus Dispatch stating that executives from Foxconn were in Columbus recently and have met with members of the Columbus Partnership has apparently led to what I consider an ill-considered decision that is likely being directed by the millionaires that shape economic policy in this city while ignoring the impact such decisions have on the overall good of Columbus's citizens. This is a knee-jerk reaction to a company that is shopping for the best corporate handout that money can buy. In doing so, they've included not only Ohio, but also many of the country's most populated and economically stable states such as Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Texas, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and New York in order to get everyone to throw this billion-dollar corporation a bone based on the premise of jobs, jobs, jobs. And maybe, just maybe, if you're willing to give them everything but the kitchen sink, they might produce. The company has a history of not keeping its promises. For example, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania was told by Foxconn that they would build a $30 million factory and hire 500 workers, but it never materialized. A $1 billion investment in Indonesia was promised, but never occurred. And Foxconn has also fallen considerably short in its promises of billions in investments to Brazil, Vietnam, and India. Nearly every reputable news organization in the United States has stated that the $3 billion in incentives from Wisconsin is a mistake, that it will cost nearly $66,000 in government subsidies for each of the 3,000 initial workers who Foxconn promises to pay about $53,000 a year, benefits included. You do the math. Foxconn bears no meaningful risk in this deal. Financial news service MarketWatch stated, "This isn't simply a bad deal. It is an over-the-top bad deal for Wisconsin." And then there is Foxconn's well-known history of a disturbing work environment. The Worldwide Labor Association documented labor rights violations at Foxconn that included excessive overtime, low wages, withholding pay, underage workers, improper disposal of hazardous waste, and fatal industrial accidents resulting from the failure to address known hazards. Obviously, a company that places profit over people. In 2010, harsh work conditions even led to employee suicides at locations in China. And Foxconn's solution to this was to install safety nets to catch the employees who attempted to jump to their deaths from the company's buildings. So regardless of whether you claim that this incentive package was not intended to lure Foxconn, putting a for sale sign out on the front door of City Hall is shameful. Enticing billion-dollar businesses with tax incentives on the backs of those who pay their fair share of taxes while these corporations bankroll record profits and we the people see our wages remain stagnant is morally wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motel. I just would like to remind my colleagues that this ordinance is not intended or to be used by any individual company. It is a permissive ordinance. I'd also like to highlight that contained within the ordinance are representations of this council's commitment and the city and mayor's commitment to good jobs in our community. This incentive is only allowed for companies that will pay a living wage and that will present very exciting job creation opportunities in our city. And I think we can all agree, I won't speak for all of you, but I think we can all agree that more living wage jobs in our city is a win for all of our residents.
Chair. Thank you. Yeah. I want to give Director Shoney, if you're okay, an opportunity to respond, particularly to the commentary regarding the lack of performance. I know many of our incentives are performance-based. Is this a performance-based incentive? Do you want to opine on that, please?
Thank you, President Klein, Chair Brown, members of council. Yes, the vast majority, and I'm trying to think if I can quantify it better than that, but I'll just leave it as vast majority of our incentives are purely performance-based. So whether it's our job creation tax credits or downtown office incentive or our property tax incentives, you have to complete the action before you receive the benefit. So with property tax incentives, you have to build the building before you receive the property tax benefit. In this case, you have to create the jobs and pay at least $1 million in corporate net profits tax, separate and aside from what the city would get in employee withholding tax before you qualify for the benefit. So this is one where I do share Mr. Motil's concerns about companies making promises and not keeping them, and that's something that we're very careful of in terms of not putting city cash out the door up front in cases like this.
So to summarize, if a company takes advantage of a incentive policy under 2115-2017 moving forward, their benefit is only realized if they meet certain criteria of job creation and investment that is outlined in the deal. Otherwise, they get nothing.
Yeah,
or they only get a portion of what they realized.
And in this case, also having some tax liability, some substantial tax liability to the city, even after the incentive.
Thank you, Director Shoney. And I do, with all due respect to the speaker, I don't think there's anything shameful about accepting the international competitiveness of these economic development deals and going to bat to make sure that families and people in the city of Columbus can earn a living wage job. And that's nothing to hide from. It's something to be proud of as we move forward to make sure that job opportunities are available for everyone in the city of Columbus, and certainly doing our best to make sure that happens.
That's right. Thank you, President Klein. Any other comments, questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Oh, yes, I need to request to amend as submitted to the clerk first.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Thank you, and I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
That is all I have.
There is one more piece in rules and reference, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Councilmember Page while we're in the committee.
Thank you, President Klein. If we can all go back to page 5 of our agenda. Ordinance 1812-2017, and the purpose of this ordinance is to amend various sections of the Columbus Building Code to consolidate the boards of review into one board, and this is a result of the state changes to the state license as well as a decrease in the review workload for these boards. And I believe that this will also make the process and review boards a little bit more efficient. Director Messer, do you have any additional comments?
Thank you. Yes, essentially what we're doing is just consolidating different boards. So currently we have a variety of mechanical boards that meet on a regular basis, and oftentimes either don't have issues to consider and end up wasting a lot of time. So we thought it would be prudent to combine those boards, have a more representative one board.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Legislation passes.
Thank you, President Klein. If I may move to Recreation and Parks.
Sure, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Ordinance 1906-2017 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks Department to enter into contract with Shelley and Sands Incorporated for construction of the final segment of the Camp Chase Trail between Sullivan Avenue and Georgesville Road, to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget and to authorize the expenditure of $1,128,000 and to declare an emergency. Director Collins, any additional comments? Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Thank you. That's all I have, President Klein.
Thank you, Chair. The next committee is Public Safety. It's chaired by Councilmember Mitch Brown. Chair Brown, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Over the last few months, Council has worked with leaders in the driving park community and the Southern Orchards community to create a comprehensive safety plan for the Livingston corridor. Tonight, Council will appropriate dollars to support Community Crime Patrol, who will work with the Southern Orchards community on the western end of Livingston Avenue, and Council will appropriate funding for special duty officers who will work with the driving park community on the eastern boundary of Livingston Avenue. At this time, Council President, would you like to make any comments, sir?
Thank you, Chair. I do want to recognize some folks and have them come up if they're still here. Deputy Chief Bash, Area Commissioner Terry Elliott, Pat Torrance from Buckeye Community Hope Foundation, as well as Heidi Riggs from Alvis. Y'all want to come forward? I know these, a combination of 2047 and 2052-2017
yes.
Is a community effort driven from Council in conjunction with many community leaders for the continued work that we're doing upon Livingston Avenue and Driving Park from a help standpoint with Alvis, from a safety standpoint with the Division of Police, and then with the Livingston Avenue Business Association and the leadership in the community with people like Miss Elliott, who is a champion for all of Columbus, but specifically that neighborhood. So if it's okay with you, Chair, may I turn the mic over to them?
Absolutely.
Miss Elliott.
Thank you, Council President Klein, council members. I come representing the Livingston Avenue Business Association, as well as the communities that sat under the Livingston Avenue Area Commission. The Livingston Avenue corridor is a main corridor to this city. And as the city grows and evolves, so should that corridor. There are 50-plus businesses in that corridor, and there are 4 neighborhoods connected to that corridor. They are Hanford Village, Driving Park, Old Oaks, and Livingston Park. The Livingston corridor has safety and crime issues, and I've met with the Columbus Police and City Council members and Pat Torn and United Way and Capitol and on and on and on to try to take efforts to solve this crime and safety. I do believe these partnerships that I have made with these entities and with the proposal that you guys are setting forth to give us a special duty cruiser just for the Livingston corridor would help to reduce the crime and increase safety. And the residents and the business owners who share this corridor, as well as City Council, would benefit from the reduced crime and safety, and it would make our neighborhood, our community, a safer place to live and work, and for visitors to come to.
Well done. I can't really add anything to that.
Well, the great people of Livingston Avenue, Driving Park, all those neighborhoods that you mentioned, they deserve this. We appreciate your leadership. We're certainly grateful for the Division of Police, Deputy Chief, for your effort in bringing this together, and then our partner at Alvis for the work that you do in providing the folks who want opportunity and seek it to have a stabilization center to give them the help they need to lift up the entire community and then the basis of a safe community moving forward. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, President Klein. Deputy Chief Bash, you have to say something. You can't come down and spend the time you spent this evening without acknowledging the commitment that the Columbus Police Division is going to help in that community, sir.
Councilmember Brown, thank you very much, but noticing the time, and I had about 30 minutes prepared to talk about this relationship that is so vital to the division as well as the community. More importantly, though, the connection with Alvis will really give the clients of Alvis a connection with Columbus police officers so that those interactions don't have to be as contentious as they possibly could be. The citizens of Driving Park are going to feel much safer knowing that they've got a new neighbor in Alvis, but also more relationships with the Division of Police. So it does strengthen those relationships. It enhances public safety. And I'll hold the rest of my remarks till later when we meet. Thank you.
President Klein, I'd like to recognize our civic leader. He came down with us, Mr. John Coates and his wife. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Coates, good to see you again. Welcome back to Council's chamber. I'm glad that you're able to recognize them. That was my next question, to make sure that you recognize our great community leaders. Thank you for coming down to Council and for your leadership in the community. Any other comments, Councilmember?
Thank you, President Klein, and thank you all for coming down.
Thank you.
I will make my comments about the ordinance as brief as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, ordinance 2047-2017 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter a contract with Community Crime Patrol for the purpose of providing citizen patrol services, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $15,000 in the Public Safety Initiative subfund and declare an emergency. If there are no comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2052-2017 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a grant agreement with the Alvis 180 for the provisioning of special duty police in Driving Park, to authorize an appropriation within the Public Safety Initiatives Fund, to authorize and transfer within the General Fund, to authorize the expenditure of $74,480, and to declare an emergency. Again, if there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Also, ordinance 2124-2017 to authorize the Director, Finance and Management Director to issue a purchase order and associate all general budget reservations to Volcanic Manufacturing, LLC, doing business as Volcanic Bikes, for the purchase of patrol mountain bikes and associated accessories and replacement parts for the Division of Police, to authorize an appropriation expenditure of $110,000 within the Public Safety Initiative Fund, and to declare an emergency. This legislation, for my colleagues and for the public, was what we discussed earlier with regards to Mr. Fred Myers, who worked very, very diligently to get this legislation prepared, and I am very, very happy about it, and I ask for approval.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 2125-2017 to authorize the Department of Public Safety to accept a grant from Southeast Incorporated in support of the REACT program, to authorize an appropriation within the Public Safety Initiative subfund, and to declare an emergency. The Rapid Response Emergency Addiction and Crisis Team, REACT, is a partnership between Southeast Inc. and the Columbus Division of Fire. Southeast Inc. personnel are funded by Adam H. This pilot project, which began May 1st, 2017, teams are Columbus medics with a mental health nurse and an outreach coordinator. The team responds to a hospital or other location when Columbus Fire Division encounters an overdose. The idea is to meet the patient where they are, where the addiction is taking place, and to provide resources, including referrals to the proper follow-up agencies and or entrance into the treatment facility as beds allow. Columbus Fire Division has provided the program with a full-time paramedic, a vehicle, fuel, and office space and technology. Since May 1st, the team has been called out 280 times, and they've engaged 254 people. 55% accepted some form of immediate assistance, 45% agreed to follow-up appointments and or treatment, and 23% refused all services. Adam H. has evaluated the program and considers it successful. They would like to see the pilot program expanded to include hours that are not currently covered in which a large amount of overdoses are occurring. The $50,000 being accepted by the City of Columbus on behalf of the Division of Fire will pay for a second paramedic to expand the hours of coverage for 5 months, with the expectation the pilot program will once again be reevaluated for future funding streams in January 2018. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
And that's all we have in public safety this evening, President.
Thank you, Chair. Our next committee is Public Utilities. It's chaired by Councilmember Stenziano. Chair Stenziano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Tonight, Public Utilities are bringing forward an ordinance 1542-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with ProShot Concrete Incorporated for the Allen Creek Main Trunk and Allen Creek Sub-Trunk Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $4,477,185.90 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of $4,477,185.90 from the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund. The work for this project consists of cement lining, internal spot repairs, of reinforced concrete pipe for the Allen Creek Main Trunk and Sub-Trunk Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next is ordinance 1606-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with the Shelley and Sands Incorporated for the Morse Dominion Integrated Solutions Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $5,658,402.42 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the expenditure of up to $5,658,402.42 from the said loan fund for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, and to authorize an amendment to the 2017 capital improvements budget to create sufficient budget authority for this project. The work of this project consists of the construction of 53 bioretention facilities in the Clintonville-Beechwood area, as well as a regional water quality basin along Indianola Avenue. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next, ordinance 1611-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities and the Director of Public Service to enter into a construction contract with the Coney Construction Company for the Blueprint Clintonville Overbrook Chatham Integrated Solutions Project and the Wangling Drive Wyrona Drive Water Line Improvements Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $1,271,410.82 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the transfer of $56,040.79 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, to authorize the expenditure up to $670,592.07 from the Water General Obligation Bond Fund, and to authorize the transfer and expenditure of $58,591.11 from the Department of Public Services, Streets and Highways Go bonds, to authorize a total expenditure of up to $2,056,634.79, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget. The work of these projects consists of 20 green infrastructure locations and water line improvements. Subsequent to the water and sewer line work, this project will require resurfacing of pavement, replacing curbs and curb ramps. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1801-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter a construction contract with Instituform Technologies, LLC, for the Blueprint Hilltop 4 lining, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $2,805,394.80 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize an expenditure up to $2,805,394.80 from said fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget. The work for this project consists of rehabilitation of sewers and manholes in the Hilltop neighborhood affected by the ongoing Blueprint project. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next is ordinance 1805-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Fields Excavating Incorporated for the Mays Road area water line improvements, including 8th Avenue water line improvements projects, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $3,487,042.65 from the Water System Reserve Fund to the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $3,487,042.65 from the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund for the Division of Water, and to authorize an amendment to the 2017 capital improvements budget. The goal of this project is to replace or rehabilitate the existing water lines that have a high break frequency in the downtown and Northland community planning areas. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, ordinance 1831-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to execute a construction contract with Elite Excavating Company of Ohio, Incorporated, for the Skyline Drive Area Stormwater Systems Improvement Project, to authorize an expenditure of up to $3,331,913.40 within the Storm Sewer Bonds Fund, to authorize a transfer of $1,477,905.40 within the Storm Sewer Bonds Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvement budget. Work consists of the construction of approximately 12,000 linear feet of 12 to 42-inch storm sewer and 34 linear feet of water line in the Skyline Drive neighborhood in the far northwest planning area. I do want to point out that this project was initiated due to public complaints of poor drainage in the Skyline Drive neighborhood. So I do encourage those out there, when we say voice your concern, contact us, to please do so, as this ordinance is evidence that we listen and to get that work done for you. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1859-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a plan to modification of the professional engineering services agreement with Patrick Engineering Incorporated for the O'Shaughnessy Hydro Turbine Facilities Improvement Project for the Division of Water, to authorize a transfer and expenditure up to $1,798,100 within the Water General Obligations Bond Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget. The O'Shaughnessy Hydro Turbine Facility is more than 30 years old, and its major components are in need of repair. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1894-2017 to authorize the city attorney to file complaints in order to appropriate and accept the remaining fee simple and lesser real estate necessary to timely complete the Big Run Hill Branch Sewer Extension public improvement project, and to authorize the city attorney to spend funds pursuant to an existing auditor's certificate. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1924-2017 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase an existing professional engineering agreement with Brown & Caldwell for the Southern Lee Wastewater Treatment Plant Chemically Enhanced Primary Treatment Preliminary Treatment Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of funds from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of $3,668,016 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, and declare an emergency. This chemically enhanced primary treatment project will provide additional plant capacity to treat wet weather flows in excess of 330 million gallons per day, as approved by the Ohio EPA. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Next, 1934-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Shoup Construction Company for the chemically enhanced primary treatment disinfection project at the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $17,633,252 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $17,633,252 from said loan fund for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage and declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1936-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify an existing professional engineering agreement with Burgess & Nyepel Incorporated for the Southernly Wastewater Treatment Plant Chemically Enhanced Primary Treatment Disinfection Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $1,880,000 from $1,880,000 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Sanitary General Obligation Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,880,000 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Go Bond Fund and declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1969-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to execute a construction contract with Fields Excavating Incorporated for the Clintonville Neighborhood Stormwater System Improvement Phase 2 project, to authorize an expenditure of up to $1,844,277.29 within the Storm Sewer Bond Fund and declare an emergency. This project involves improvements to the existing stormwater conveyance system to mitigate street and yard flooding and to reduce roadside drainage problems within the Clintonville neighborhood. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next, ordinance 1992-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into an agreement with MS Consultants for professional engineering services for the Storm Water Pump Station Improvements Project for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, to authorize a transfer within and an expenditure of up to $1,495,658.43 from the Stormwater Bond Fund, to authorize an amendment to the 2017 capital improvements budget and declare an emergency. This agreement will include engineering services to investigate, develop, and evaluate storm system and flood protection improvements along the area southwest of the Arena District near the confluence of the Scioto and Olentangy rivers. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
And now if we can move back to page 4 of the first reading. Ordinance 1527-2017. This legislation authorizes the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a planned modification of a professional engineering services agreement with URS Corporation Ohio, a wholly owned subsidiary of AECOM, for the Big Walnut Augmentation Rickenbacker Interceptor Lockbore and Subtrunk, to authorize the transfer within an expenditure of $1,437,337.22 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget and to provide sufficient budget authority. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1893-2017, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into a contract with Applied Industrial Technologies for the purchase of a surge and dynamic motor tester analyzer system for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, and to authorize the expenditure of $169,990.03 from the Sewer System Operating Fund. This equipment will be used at the Jackson Pike Wastewater Treatment Plant to perform static and dynamic testing for current signature analysis on the facility's critical motors. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1922-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a planned modification with Advanced Control Systems Incorporated to maintain the SCADA operating system for the Division of Power, and to authorize the expenditure of $34,290 from the Electricity Operating Fund. This contract modification will provide continued software and hardware support for year 3 of a 3-year agreement. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1931-2017, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into a contract with Sullivan Environmental Technologies Incorporated for the purchase of Gold's slurry pump parts for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, and to authorize the expenditure of $76,045.54 from the Sewer System Operating Fund. The equipment will be used at the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant to rebuild a number 4 RAS pump. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1938-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase an existing engineering agreement with Resource International for the Blueprint Clintonville Professional Construction Management Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $652,318.95 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $652,318.95 from the GO Bond Fund. This agreement will provide construction management services for the installation of green infrastructure in the Clintonville pilot area of the city's Blueprint Columbus initiative. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Next is ordinance 1952-2017, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to establish a contract with Lytle Enterprises of Ohio, LLC, for the purchase of variable message signs for the Division of Water, and to authorize the expenditure of $26,700 from the Water Operating Fund. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1963-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase an existing contract with Corda Nemeth Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $400,000 from the General Engineering Services for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, to expend up to $200,000 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, to expend $200,000 from the Storm Sewer Bonds Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvement budget. The scope of work for this modification is to provide consulting engineering services for miscellaneous rehabilitation projects not already included in the capital improvement program on an as-needed basis. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Ordinance 1972-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase an existing contract with CHA Consulting in the amount of $400,000 for the general engineering services for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, to expend up to $200,000 from the Sanitary Sewer General Obligation Bond Fund, to expend $200,000 from the Storm Sewer Bonds Fund, and to amend the 2017 capital improvements budget. The scope of work of this modification is to provide consulting engineering services, again on miscellaneous rehabilitation projects not included in the capital improvement budget, as needed by the Department of Sewerage and Drainage. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Last is ordinance 2027-2017, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a planned modification for professional services with Arcadis US for the cost of service studies and general financial analysis services, to authorize the expenditure of $10,065 from the Power Operating Fund, $64,020 from the Water Operating Fund, $71,775 from the Sewer Operating Fund, and $19,140 from the Stormwater Operating Fund. This legislation authorizes the Director into a plan modification for the continued development and update of cost of service studies, comprehensive rates, fees, charge analysis, and general financial analysis services for the Director's office. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
Did I forget any, Director? If we can move on to judiciary, President?
Yeah, I do want to recognize there's folks in the audience for zoning. We're one more piece of legislation, then we're going to go right into the zoning agenda, so I appreciate your patience, please.
Tonight in judiciary, bring forward ordinance 1991-2017, to authorize and direct the city attorney to settle the lawsuit known as Darrell Blakely v. Columbus versus City of Columbus et al., pending in the United States District Court for the Southern District of Ohio, and to authorize the expenditure of the $45,000 in settlement of this lawsuit, and to declare an emergency. City Attorney Pfeiffer, I think everyone's...
Stenziano, President Klein, members of council. On the evening of July 15, 2014, a 911 call came into the police, a frantic female voice saying, "There's a man across the street pointing a gun at me." Two police then went to the scene. This is a neighborhood that is east of James and north of I-70. The officers, because of the call, approached a man sitting in his driveway. They approached with their weapons drawn. The man said, "This is my home. I have a concealed weapon." He stood up, he turned around, and he was handcuffed. The woman was still there who made the call, and she was very frantic. The police observed a shotgun leaning against the garage about 5 feet where the man was sitting. This is Mr. Blakey. They also found a rifle in his vehicle, all secured. Based on what the officers saw, based upon what the officers heard, this individual addressed himself as this was his property, and he did say he had a concealed weapon. The officers, based upon conflicting statements, couldn't determine that there was a charge to be filed, aggravated menacing. But in the process of having handcuffed Mr. Blakey, he endured a dislocated left arm, left shoulder, that required a left rotator cuff surgery. Based upon the evidence that was going to come in, we determined that summary judgment was not going to happen in this case, and it would go to trial. Based upon what we saw as attorney's fees generating, and based upon the fact this individual did have medical expenses of about $40,000, it was determined between the parties that a $45,000 settlement was appropriate. Deputy Director Speaks was there, believed this was an appropriate settlement in the best interest of the city, and I would then ask this council to follow the advice that we're offering you and approve this ordinance and settle this case for $45,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
Any other legislation, Mr. Cinziano? Okay. Can I get a motion to recess regular meeting number 41? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
So we stand in recess of regular meeting number 41. We do have non-agenda speakers, which unfortunately we can't take right now because we are pushing the limits of zoning. And I apologize to those speakers in the audience. So whenever Chair Page, you want a moment to, or do you want to go directly into zoning? Okay, so we'll take a quick 1-minute break. I'm going to ask the council members, unless they need to use the restroom, to stay put, and we'll go directly into zoning. Regular meeting number 42 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Jaiza Page chairs that committee. All members serve on the committee. Chair Page, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Klein. Before beginning our zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speakers speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes on each side. We provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. I would also like to add an additional direction this evening because we do have a lot of variances. If you're the applicant and you have a request for an emergency, please, as I'm reading the title, if you could make your way down to the podium, just so we keep that going, you will be required to make a statement on your request for emergency. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, I ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against any council variance, including staff, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn in. I swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. You may be seated. 1491-2017, to rezone 2700 McKinley Avenue, 43214, being approximately 2.85 acres, located on the east side of McKinley Avenue, approximately 1,650 feet southeast of West 5th Avenue, from LM Limited Manufacturing District to LARD Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Roy Yoder. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. There is no area commission for this area, but the McKinley Avenue Business Association is opposing this variance. Are there any additional comments from staff?
None unless you need some clarifications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Thank you for coming this evening, Mr. Yoder.
I'd like to just reserve comment until after the opponents and pros and cons.
Okay, thank you. That is fine. We do have one speaker speaking against this ordinance. Is Mr. Ed Crum. Welcome to council. Mr. Crum, you can come down to the podium. You have 3 minutes. If you could again state your name and any organizations that you are representing. And welcome to council.
Good evening, Council, Council President Klein. My name is Ed Crum. I am employed by Griffin Pavement Striping. I am Vice President, Chief Financial Officer with them. Our offices are located at the intersection of Harrison Road and McKinley Avenue. I come before you tonight as President of the McKinley Avenue Employers Association. This is a private association comprising over 30 companies located along McKinley Avenue. Some of the larger companies are Orange Barrel Media, Kokosin Construction, GFS Chemicals, Coda, Cisco Food Services, and Decker Construction Company. Per our most recent census, our members contribute over $1.6 million in income taxes to the City of Columbus via payroll and income. And we have approximately 5,000 workers that are employed by the companies involved in this area. This organization was established in 1999 with the second of its 3 objectives to, quote, make sure that the M zoning classification for the district is maintained and the integrity of the zone does not get destroyed by weak zoning decisions for adjacent and contiguous parcels. To that end, in 2000, the McKinley Avenue Corridor Plan was developed by City Council and the City of Columbus. This plan was endorsed by Mayor Coleman and City Council at that time, and the McKinley Avenue Corridor Plan was designated as one of the 5 neighborhood employment districts in the City of Columbus. Most recently, we were asked to approve the Department of Development's McKinley Avenue Dublin Area Plan. We were solicited to give our comments on that plan. We had some issues with some of the items in there, and subsequently that plan was scrapped by the Department of Development because of the concerns that we had. I am here today to voice our organization's opposition to the rezoning of 2700 McKinley Avenue from limited manufacturing to apartment residential. Our disapproval is based on the following reasons. 1, the rezoning is in conflict with the guidelines of McKinley Avenue Corridor Plan. I believe a copy of that was forwarded to you all today by Andrew Dyer of the Senior Policy Advisor. This specific parcel identified in that plan as being zoned manufacturing at that time, and we see no circumstantial or economic justification for a change in the status at this time. I would like to point out an error in the staff report you received today in your packet on this property. Under the background section, item 3 states incorrectly that the McKinley Avenue Corridor Plan does not contain land-specific use recommendations. On page 11, the first item states, quote, preserve the current mix of manufacturing and industrial uses throughout the retention of manufacturing M zoning. I have a copy of that section that I can provide you upon completion of my comments. For 17 years, the existing zoning has been working fine for this property as it's currently zoned and has income tax producing property for the City of Columbus since 1987 when it was constructed. Second, the project is different from the adjoining existing projects, Runaway Bay and Hidden Lake condominiums, in that they were there before the McKinley Avenue Corridor Plan was developed, and neither of these properties have an entrance or exit onto McKinley Avenue. As with residential development, we are concerned about the ancillary items that come with residential products, such as sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. Just to quickly wrap up, if I could.
Yes.
Just a couple more items. Most recently, McKinley Avenue was improved. We did not have sidewalks added or bikeways in that area by the city. There's issues with the commercial and residential mix there based on how we all conduct our businesses on this area. And lastly, our biggest concern is that a rezoning here will set a precedent for future rezoning in that area. Our group was set up back in '99, and Buckeye Auto Parts attempted to put condos in there, and that was conflicting with the use of the area. So our concern is that the starting of this area will just precipitate further development, further restrict our businesses from conducting business as we do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Crum. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Crum? Thank you for coming down.
And I will leave these here for council if they'd like.
We do have 2 speakers speaking for this ordinance. Mr. Yoder, if you don't mind, we can have those 2 speakers come down and then give you the opportunity for a rebuttal from any comments. Thank you. Our first speaker speaking for this ordinance is Mr. Robert Grinch. Mr. Grinch, welcome again to council. If you could let us know any organizations that you are representing, and you have 3 minutes.
Chairman Page, President Klein, members of the commission or council. I'm Rob Grinch, and I reside in the West Scioto area. The proposal before you is located south of West Fifth Avenue, and it's north of the area where the police department has their mounted patrol along Fisher Avenue. And really, in looking through the plans in advance of this meeting and after the Development Commission came forth, I noticed there was a change to the documents, and really what I wanted to do was ask the applicant to verify that there's been no change in their proposal since the Development Commission in this evening's meeting. So in the documentation, the limitation text that was submitted at the Development Commission under item C, buffering, landscaping, and/or screening commitments, there's a clause that says, along our south property line, there exists an ordinance granting to the Hidden Lake Condominium Association a perpetual non-exclusive easement approximately 88.83 foot in width, consisting of overlawn trees and bushes. We will not encroach on this area with our new building except for a 10-foot wide area for construction equipment during construction. So the reason I bring this up is because a site plan that was submitted more recently with the council ordinance does show some contour lines in the area of this buffer easement that I just mentioned. And I just wanted to verify with the applicant that these are existing contours and that there will be no earthwork there or tree removals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grinch. And our final speaker speaking for this ordinance is Mr. Chuck O'Connor. Welcome to council, Mr. O'Connor. Again, you have 3 minutes, and if you could let us know any organizations that you are representing as well.
Thank you, Chair Page and other council members. My name is Chuck O'Connor. My wife and I are owners and residents of Hidden Lake, and I speak on behalf of the Hidden Lake Condominium Association. Other members of the Hidden Lake Zoning and Development Committee, Pete McClellan, and Hidden Lake Association Board member Susan Forbes are here this evening, along with a few other many concerned residents who shared our concerns. When the 2,700 McKinley condo plans were first presented to us last year, we had many concerns, especially regarding the intention to vacate the existing buffer zone and the size and non-conforming height of the proposed building. The Columbus Planning and Zoning Commission members agreed with us, and we had several meetings with the developer's architect to reach an agreement. We'd like to thank Tim Dietrich and the staff of the Planning Department for their help, and Mr. Roy Yoder, architect for the project, who was forthcoming and responsive to our concerns. We are pleased that the developer will honor the 90-foot buffer zone, and the height of the building will be limited to 35 feet, and the maximum number of units will be 42. We also appreciate the clarification in the revised limited text, assuring there be no development in the buffer zone. Every effort we've made to maintain the existing trees and additional hemlock trees will be planted. First floor south-facing units will not have direct access to the buffer zone. A 6-foot-tall wood security fence on the south end of the building will enclose the property from McKinley Avenue, but will not obstruct the view of the buffer zone from Hidden Lake property. The existing topographical elevation shall be generally maintained. With that in mind, the Hidden Lake Condo Association now supports this project as presented to us on May 25th of this year. We trust the Columbus Building Department will ensure the developer will follow the requirements of the limited text. We therefore recommend passage of this ordinance. We look forward to our new neighbors and believe in the long run the new condos will increase property values. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you for coming down to council. Mr. Yoder, you now have 3 minutes for a rebuttal and to answer any of the questions or concerns from the speakers.
Let me show you the renderings. You haven't seen anything, right? Council has.
They have seen what has been submitted in your application.
My name is Roy Yoder of the
architectural firm LLC, 3200 Mann Road, Blacklick, Ohio. And I'd like to thank President Klein and Council for the opportunity to present our project, and hopefully we'll find it beneficial and want to approve it. I'd like to bring up the fact that I appreciate the comments about the McKinley Avenue Employment Association, but we are kind of north beyond the limits of the manufacturing area. Do you all have the McKinley Avenue border plan or familiar with it? I would like to direct you to page 9, I believe, or, nope, I'm sorry, page 13. And see the red area here? Well, if you look at this little blip, brown blip right here, that's our property. Approximately 3 acres on the northeast side of McKinley Avenue. As they indicated, we are sandwiched between 2 apartment complex and the Hidden Lake condos. And this almost, to me, the way it exists is spot zoning, because you got light commercial sandwiched between residential. As a matter of fact, I think years ago it was residential. And when they did build the print shop that was there, they had to make the back side look residential for the people across the lake to appreciate it, so that it didn't look like a factory. So it's really kind of a no-brainer to me, but I don't know about you guys, that parcel is residential property. As a matter of fact, all this up to Treview Road now, if you'll remember, on the east side of McKinley, is already all residential. Even north of Treview, all the quarry areas have been developed with residential property. So I think this is fitting use of this parcel rather than light manufacturing. The fact they mentioned about access from McKinley, there is no access from either the apartments or the Hidden Lake condos. I must add, though, there are gates and there are roads there. They don't use them because of security, and they close them off. So that's kind of a misnomer that there is no, I mean, they can't access it, but the driveways are there and were put in initially. Let's see. Mr. Rich was, well, those are my comments, really, and I just think it's a good use of the parcel and a real use for the lakefront. I mean, it's waterfront property, and it's not, you know, it's not a manufacturing site, period.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yoder. There may be some additional questions. Councilmember Cinziano.
Mr. Yoder, could you address Mr. Grinch's question and the other one that came up about the buffer zone? Were there any changes?
No, there are no changes to the text. It all is as it was in May when we, yes.
Thank you. Well, we've given him the opportunity to speak. Thank you so much, Mr. Yoder. No, I'm sorry. We don't allow rebuttal of anyone speaking against the, but thank you very much. Are there any additional comments from staff?
I would just like to, members of council, President Klein, Councilmember Page, I would just like to clarify that when we did view this piece, the Planning Division of the Department of Development did look at it in the context that it was surrounded on 3 sides by residential zoning. Although the area plan does suggest retaining of the M districts, there is not a land use map that gives specific land use recommendations. So I just wanted to clarify that comment. There's not an error in the staff report. If this site was on the west side of McKinley Avenue, we probably would have looked at it much differently.
Thank you. There are no additional questions or comments. I would like to move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1745-2017. Oh, thank you, Mr. Yoder. 1745-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 336501 M1 Manufacturing District, 331225 Maneuvering, 331229 Parking Space, and 331249 minimum numbers of parking spaces required of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 6480 Doubletree Avenue, 43229, to allow general office uses in a federal immigration and customs enforcement processing station with reduced parking standards in the M1 Manufacturing District. The applicant is Bell Owl Investment Incorporated. The proposed use is general office and/or federal immigration enforcement processing station uses. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northland Community Council's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Thank you. We do not have any speakers for this ordinance. Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? I do not see anyone here. With there no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1768-2017, to rezone 1086 North 4th Street, 43201, being approximately 2.03 acres located at the southeast corner of North 4th Street and East 4th Avenue from M2 Manufacturing District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is 1086 North 4th Street, LS LLC. The proposed use is a mixed commercial development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Italian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? We don't have any speakers. Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Thank you. I would now like to move for passage.
Brown, Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1845-2017, to rezone 3342 West Henderson Road, 43220, being approximately 3.6 acres located at the northwest corner of West Henderson Road and Chevy Chase Court from RR Rural Residential District to LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is 3342 Henderson Road, LLC. The proposed use is 16 detached single-unit dwellings. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northwest Civic Association's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Thank you. I would now like to move for passage by voice.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Brown? Yes. Hardin? Yes. Page? Yes. Stenziano? Yes. President Klein.
1846-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 333302, AR12, ARLD, and AR1, apartment residential district use, 331225, maneuvering, 331229, parking space, 333316, fronting, 333318, building lines, and 3333-255, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 3342 West Henderson Road, 43220, to permit 16 detached single-unit dwellings with reduced development standards in the LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District. This is a companion piece to the previous variance. The applicant is 3342 Henderson Road, LLC. The proposed use is 16 detached single-unit dwellings. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northwest Civic Association's recommendation is disapproval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Any comments from the applicant? Yes, Councilmember Stenziano.
Sorry, Madam Chair, and don't want to belabor, but I know we've talked with the applicant. The disapproval, to my understanding, isn't necessarily for this project, what was originally applied. And so I think there's confusion both with the previous and now the companion, that while they disapproved of what was initially filed, they worked with the applicant and just didn't have enough time. And so I just want to clarify that while disapproval is what we have on file conceptually and with collaboration with the applicant, we have a favorable commission.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out, Councilmember Stenziano. And Ms. Pine, if you could speak to that briefly as well.
Absolutely. The project was originally presented to Northwest Civic Association for the 16 detached single-unit dwellings. They originally recommended disapproval of this, and then the applicant switched development plans and was asking for a commercial district for an assisted living facility. That had much opposition from the neighbors. The applicant then went back to the drawing board with the original proposal, worked with the neighbors, got the support of the 16 dwelling units, as you see tonight, but did not go back to Northwest Civic Association to rectify the original disapproval recommendation. So I can't say for sure that they would have recommended approval on this, but I think they prefer this over what was proposed initially at Development Commission.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from the applicant? Thank you. Seeing no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1884-2017, to rezone 2585 Walcott Road 43026, being approximately 6.78 acres located on the west side of Walcott Road, approximately 135 feet south of Hilliard Oaks Court from R1 Residential District and CPD Commercial Plan Development District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Preferred Real Estate Investments, LLC. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The city's department's recommendation is disapproval. There is no area commission. We do have a speaker speaking for this ordinance. Ms. Sharon Rastatter, I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your last name correctly. If you could please come up to the podium. Again, you have 3 minutes. If you could let us know any organizations that you are what's the word I'm looking for? Representing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Page, President Klein, and honorable council members. My name is Sharon Rastetter. I reside at 3073 Shady Knoll Lane on the far west side of Columbus, and I'm the agent for the Far West Side Task Force, precursor to an area commission. And I've been a resident of this section of the city since 1994. I'm speaking on behalf of neighbors in the area who've been involved in this issue since the beginning when it was first proposed a year ago. In addition, this has prompted us to begin going through the process to form an area commission. We've met with David Huey and we've conducted several meetings. We would represent approximately 42,000 residents west of the West Scioto Area Commission, north of Westland, east of Brown Township, and south of Hilliard's southern boundaries. Our section of the city has many potential development sites that will be coming online in the near future, while simultaneously dealing with traffic issues from growth and crime issues in commercial areas. It is our hope that establishing the Area Commission will give Far West Side residents a voice in development affecting our neighborhoods and homes, which brings us to this development. The ordinance requested before you has gone through several changes since it was first up for consideration in July 2016. From the initial request to rezone half of the site to commercial to allow for an extended stay hotel, while the other half had already been zoned for that. With all 3-story and 180 units, it went through several different phases until the plan was approved by the Development Commission in May to rezone it for high-density residential with all 2-story buildings and 128 units. Until that time, neighbors opposed it, and the Development Commission did as well, and the city planning staff, I believe, does still oppose this. In May, it was passed. We appreciate the Preferred Living, the developers' adjustments that they've made to the plan to make it more palatable and a better fit for the neighborhood. In addition to the development text, the developer agreed to extend the sidewalk from this new complex north to Hilliard Oaks Court, as well as make additional road improvements required by the city. The daycare owners adjacent to it on the south side have stated they have a commitment from Preferred Living for a smaller setback than noted in the companion variance ordinance 1885-2017. While not going on record as fully supporting ordinance 1884-2017 per se, because it veers considerably from the city's Trey B. Roberts area plan calling for neighborhood commercial, a stance shared by the city planning staff, we are also not actively opposing it and request that you consider the merits of this plan versus Preferred Living's alternate plan. The alternate plan was submitted by Preferred Living to the city on March 1, for a preliminary site compliance review and would pass if submitted formally. It calls for only the McAdoo site, named for the carryout located on it, to be developed with all 3-story buildings, 90 apartment units, a clubhouse, and a pool. It will leave the 2 single-family properties adjacent to it as they are, ripe for the picking and setting a precedent for more hotels, which aren't really hotels, or apartments of even higher density than in the plan before you tonight. As I stated to the Development Commission in May, this leaves area residential owners and other residents in a difficult situation. Agree to the plan before you, which
Finish your
yeah,
last
which
comment.
goes against the Traby Roberts area plan and against the staff recommendations, or the alternative plan with 3-story buildings and extended stay hotel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon. I do have one quick question. I just want to make sure I'm clear. The Far West Side Task Force is not opposed to this application, but you prefer it over the original application that you reviewed?
We prefer it over the original application, definitely, and we would prefer it over Preferred Living's alternate plan. When progress wasn't being made in, I guess you'd say, negotiations, they went to the city with their backup plan. And because the city, per city officials we've spoken with, including council members, there was a change to the Ohio Revised Code. We've looked at up, and I believe it was in 2008, that allows for stays for longer than 1 year at extended stay hotels. So that is now being used by some developers to build on commercial properties what are called extended stay hotels, but then they market them as apartments. I know you're familiar with this. So what happened is the development text for the McAdoo site, which is half of the parcel that's going to be developed, is already zoned for commercial. So if they didn't get approval for all of it to be rezoned commercial for an extended stay hotel, or for part of it to be rezoned, or for all of it to be rezoned for apartments, then Preferred Living went to the city and got, well, it's a preliminary review to develop just the already zoned commercial site for a 3-story, 90-unit extended stay hotel, which of course would be taller than any of the buildings around it. The commercial properties adjacent to it are 1-story. The condos and apartments to the west of it are 1-story. The homes to the north of it are 1 and 2 stories. So 3 stories would definitely not fit in the neighborhood. The Development Commission pointed this out, that would be very imposing on the neighborhood. And at the same time, it would also leave the other 2 parcels open for future development, sort of a domino theory. If the one's already an extended stay hotel, it might not be too far-fetched to see those going in the same direction and having even higher density and taller apartment buildings than what we see here tonight.
Thank you so much. Are there any additional questions? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff, or any additional comments? Is the applicant present and would like to make any? Thank you. I have Attorney Jill Tangeman. Thank you for coming to council again.
Good evening, President Klein and members of council. Thank you for your time this evening. I'll keep my comments very short. This was a very long process for this particular rezoning. As mentioned, part of the site was zoned commercial, and we had originally proposed to use the whole site for a residential hotel. When that became apparent that that might not be a possibility, we looked at using just half the site for that. At the same time, we were trying to negotiate to rezone the property for a multifamily project. We felt that was really the best use. Preferred Living worked several months with the neighbors trying to reach an agreement on the plan, and that's the plan you see before you, which was approved by the Development Commission. I think the staff's objections are primarily driven by the area plan, but certainly development in that area has changed some since the plan was adopted, and we think that this is an appropriate transitional use between the commercial and industrial areas that surround this site, and then the single-family residential adjacent to the property. So we feel this is an appropriate use, and we feel we've addressed the concerns that the neighbors had, and again, we're supported by the Development Commission for the project. So we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Attorney Tangeman.
Thank you very much.
I would now like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
We have the companion piece for the same property, 1885-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333, 255, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 2585 Walcott Road, 43026, to permit a reduced perimeter yard for an apartment complex in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Preferred Real Estate Investments, LLC. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is disapproval. There is no area commission, but as we learned tonight, there is one in the making. If there are no further questions or comments from my colleagues, I would like to move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1929-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332-039 R4 residential district uses, 3309-14 height districts, 3312-21 D1 landscaping and screening, 3312-25 maneuvering, 3312-27 parking setback line, 3312-29 parking space, 3332-15 R4 area district requirements, 3332-21 building lines, 3332-285 perimeter yard, 3333-15C basis of computing area, 3333-18 building lines, 3333-24 rear yard, and 3333-26 height district of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1414 Broadview Avenue, 43212, to permit 2 multi-unit residential developments with reduced development standards in the AR3 Apartment Residential District in the R4 Residential District, and to repeal Ordinance 0714-2016, passed April 4, 2016, and Ordinance 1630-2007, passed November 5, 2007, and to declare an emergency. The applicant is SBECP Broadview, LLC. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development with supplemental parking. The City Department's recommendation is approval. 5th by Northwest Area Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Thank you. There is a request to amend to emergency. Mr. Perry, are you here for the applicant? Thank you so much for coming down.
Good evening, President Klein, Zoning Chair Page, and all council members. My name is Dave Perry. I'm the agent for the applicant. Councilmember Page, I'm sorry you had to read 14 code citations, but I'll tell you what's happening, tell you all what's happening with this application. This project involves a condominium development built about 2008, which had a variance ordinance condition on a site plan. It also involves an adjacent apartment building that is wrapping up construction now, also conditioned on a site plan. The 2 projects would like to add 4 parking spaces, and that requires amending both ordinances or a new ordinance to change the site plan. So most of the variances you read are existing and reflected in the construction of the 2 projects. There are a couple additional variances because the 4 parking spaces straddle a property line, for example. But the end result of this ordinance will be the addition of 4 parking spaces. The request for emergency is a timing issue with paving of the apartment building that is wrapping up construction so that the entire parking lot and these 4 parking spaces, 4 additional parking spaces, can be paved at the same time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Perry? Thank you so much for coming down. I would first like to move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1932-2017, to rezone 7,000 Bent Tree Boulevard, 43235, being approximately 16.75 acres located at the southeast corner of Bent Tree Boulevard and Sawmill Place Boulevard from CPD, Commercial Plan Development District, to LAR2, Limited Apartment Residential District, and to declare an emergency. The applicant is Preferred Living. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Far Northwest Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? We do have a request to amend to emergency. Welcome to council. Again, if you could address your request. Thank you.
Good evening, President Klein and members of council. My name is Aaron Underhill. I'm an attorney with Underhill and Hodge representing the applicant. The reason for the request and the emergency on both this matter and the following one is because of contractual timing obligations and the need to fulfill those in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Attorney Underhill? Thank you so much. Seeing none, I would first like to move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
In the companion piece 1933-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 331209 AL, 331213 driveway, 331221AB landscaping and screening, 331225 maneuvering, 331227 parking setback line, 331249 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 332107B landscaping, 333313 AR2 area district requirements, 333318 building lines, and 3333-255 perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 7000 Bent Tree Boulevard, 43235, to permit reduced development standards for a multi-unit residential development in the LAR2 Limited Apartment Residential District and to declare an emergency. The applicant is preferred living. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. FAR Northwest Commission's recommendation is approval. Any additional comments from staff? Again, we have a request to amend to emergency. Attorney Underhill, you have already addressed council. I would now ask you to come back again. I would first like to move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1937-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 333302 AR12, ARLD, and AR1 apartment residential district use, 3309-148 area districts, 3312-25 maneuvering, 3312-49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3321-05B vision clearance, 3333-15 basis of computing area, 3333-18 building lines, 3333-22 maximum side yard required, 3333-23A minimum side yard permitted, 3333-24 rear yard, and 3333-255 perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 6371 South 18th Street, 43205, to permit mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the ARLD apartment residential district. The applicant is Stanton Colville and Alexis Syverson. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Near East Area Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Thank you. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1944-2017, to rezone 1541 Schrock Road, 43229, being approximately 0.7 acres, located at the southwest corner of Schrock and Carl Roads, from C5 Commercial District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Morningstar Partners, LLC. The proposed use is general retail. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northland Community Council's recommendation is approval. Any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? I would first like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Harden, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1946-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332-039 R4 Residential District, 3312-13B Driveway, 3312-49C minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3332-05A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, 3332-15 R4 Area District Requirements, and 3372-604B setback requirements of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 851 North 4th Street to permit approximately 1,050 square feet of ground floor commercial use and 2 second-story dwelling units with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. The applicant is Al Khatib Fourth LLC. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Italian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. Any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Thank you. I now move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1947-2017, to rezone 868 Ingleside Avenue, 43215, being approximately 0.98 acres located on the east side of Ingleside Avenue, approximately 70 feet north of Buttles Avenue from M Manufacturing District to AR2 Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Pickett Companies. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development and monopole telecommunications tower. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Harrison West Society's recommendation is approval. Any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any additional comments? Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1948-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333-025 AR2 Apartment Residential District Use, 3309-14 Height Districts, 3312-49 Minimum Numbers of Parking Spaces Required, 3333-18F Building Lines, and 3333-255 Perimeter Yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 868 Ingleside Avenue, 43215, to permit a multi-unit residential development and monopole communications tower with reduced development standards in the AR2 Apartment Residential District. The applicant again is Pickett Companies. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development and monopole telecommunications tower. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Harrison West Society's recommendation is approval. There are no additional comments from staff or the applicant. I would now like to move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1953-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332-039 R4 Residential District, 3309-14 Height Districts, 3321-05 A1 Vision Clearance, 3332-18D Basis of Computing Area, 3332-25 Maximum Side Yards Required, 3332-26 Minimum Side Yard Permitted, 3332-27 Rear Yard, 3332-29 Height District, and 3372-604A Setback Requirements of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 97 East 5th Avenue, 43201, to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the R4 Residential District and C4 Commercial District. The applicant is BPHP Partners LLC. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. City Department's recommendation is approval. Italian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. Any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make any comments? We do have one speaker speaking for this variance. If Mr. Brandon Hayes, I see a few names here. Are there? Okay, well, I have Brandon Hayes, Brett Bumbio, and Trevor Plant. If you could just let us know which one of the three men you are. Okay, thank you. I have 3 minutes, and if you could let us know any organizations that you're representing.
Yep, good evening. I'm sorry, this is my first council meeting. So we are here with Burwell Court, so we are 3 out of the 5 owner-occupants of the building. These are the condominiums directly to the south of the new development. I should start out by clarifying my position. So we were definitely for the new development. When we bought the place back in 2015, we were sold on the fact that that area was being developed. We saw the plan. However, the current developer of our place sold the land, and some of the plans changed a little bit. We do oppose the rear variance because when we actually purchased the place back in 2015, we were told we would have room for guest parking behind our building. We understand that's not going to happen. However, based on where the site plans are showing the rear wall being, we're not going to have enough room really to back out of our garages or enter them. So I provided a handout actually before we started. I don't know if you guys have that by chance. It says Burwell Court at the top, yeah. Yep, so this is our rear drive there, and that's the access to our garages on the right. The site plan shows the rear of the building being built up right against the paver drive there. We have these brick boxes installed over our gas lines, which takes out 2 additional feet of our driveway width, which when my unit is actually the first one there on the right. So coming around the one-way drive there, trying to get in the garage, I have to go all the way up against the fence and back up, pull forward multiple times. Based on where that wall is going, I do not feel I'll be able to get into my garage. So that would be the issue that we have here. The second thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm hoping for clarification on this, on the site plan on page 6 that was provided, it shows our east drive looks like it's part of the new development. And I would just like clarification on that, because we were told that that's actually the HOA's driveway that has yet to be paved, that will hopefully soon be paved. But I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't part of the sale, or that the new development has access to that in any way. But those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming down. And I would like the applicant's representative to come down, and if you could briefly address both of those concerns.
Could I ask a quick question, Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilmember Stinziano.
Were those issues raised with the commission?
No, we didn't see it.
Council President Klein, council members, no, I've not addressed these issues with any of the neighboring people. This project was originally part of a larger zoning plan, which incorporates the project that this gentleman speaks of. That was then condominiumized, and the remainder of the property was then sold to my client, who's going to develop it. The rezoning that the variances we're asking for were for some minor changes to a building that had already been approved, and because it was done through council variance, we had to come back for this because it changes the original plan. The maneuverability that he speaks about is, to my knowledge, adequate under the zoning code and does not require any particular variance, so maneuverability is there. And this project is separate, and it will not be using any particular access to the east that he asked about. The original development that was planned for the site was going to use that east access that's close to his development, their condos, but it's not going to be using it now because we have our own separate entrance, both off Fifth Avenue and also off the Eastern Drive.
Thank you. I do have one comment, if I can just share this with you. So the young man who spoke said that your building is going to be right where that fence is. Is that correct?
I don't know this photo, but I can tell you that that maneuverability line where it is where this particular building, that space for maneuverability was what was granted to that building. Shannon, you can speak to that too.
Ms. Pine? No, thank you. Oh, sir, we don't. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
I can just clarify that there is not a maneuvering variance requested for the property to the south. I know the plan was reviewed by various review agencies, including Public Service Department, and they would not have allowed a building to be constructed that would violate the maneuvering of that building to the south.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I would first like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
And I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
1973-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332-039 R4 Residential District, 3332-05 Area District Lot Width Requirements, sections 3332-15 R4 Area District Requirements, 3332-19 Fronting, and 3332-27 Rear Yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1069 Say Avenue, 43201, to permit a single-unit dwelling, a carriage house, on the rear of a lot developed with a single-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R4 Residential District, and to declare an emergency. The applicant is Jessica Moore and Timothy Ferratis. The proposed use is a carriage house on a lot developed with a single-unit dwelling. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Italian Village Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Is the applicant present and would like to make comments? Yes, I believe there is a request to amend this to emergency. Welcome to council.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Moore, and this emergency request would allow for construction of our carriage house, in addition to being before inclement weather approaches. And it would also assist with creating a barrier between our house and the alleyway to reduce multiple car break-ins and house break-ins that we've experienced in the past. Without the amendment request, the construction work wouldn't begin until fall season, which would impede on our work getting completed.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
I would first like to move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1974-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3356-03C4, permitted uses, 3312-13 driveway, and 3312-25 maneuvering of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1021 South High Street, 43206, to conform an existing single-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the C4 Commercial District. The applicant is Austin Kalk. The proposed use is to conform an existing single-unit dwelling. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Brewery District Commission does not have a formal recommendation available. I know that there may be some comments from staff about this process. If you could share that briefly with council.
This request had gone before the Brewery District Commission for the construction of a new garage. Unfortunately, the applicant was not aware of his need to also ask for approval of his variances, and they were missed. There was a business meeting scheduled on July 27th, but there was not a quorum. It was planned that the Brewery District Commission would act on the variances at that meeting, but with the lack of quorum, they were unable to do so. I've gotten word from the Historic Preservation staff that they have pulled all of the commission members, and since they were supportive of the request to build the garage, the existing dwelling, the existing conditions variances for their driveway and maneuvering were all kind of existing conditions anyway, and they had no issue with any of those. So the Historic Preservation staff had asked if council would consider this without the formal recommendation from the Brewery District.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pine. If there are no questions or comments, I would first like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stenziano, President Klein.
1979-2017, to rezone 6261 Wright Road, 43130, meaning approximately 74.38 acres located at the southeast corner of Wright Road and Gender Road from NE Neighborhood Edge, NC Neighborhood Center, and R Rural Districts to CPD Commercial Plan Development and PUD 8 Plan Unit Development Districts. The applicant, is Homewood Corporation. The proposed use is a commercial and mixed residential development. The City Department's recommendation is disapproval. Greater Southeast Area Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff? Thank you. Is the applicant present and would like to make additional comments? Thank you. Welcome to council.
Thank you. Good evening, President Klein, Chairman Page, members of council. Laura Comack here on behalf of Homewood Corporation. I'm pleased to take any questions that you might have with regard to the staff disapproval. Generally, with regard to the process, we filed this back in October. We have appeared not less than 4 times in front of the Greater Southeast Area Commission and obtained their approval twice. First for the residential component and thereafter for the animal shelter component that's within the CPD. Other than that, we have met, I'm going to say, 19 of 20 requirements, including graphics commission, landscaping commitments, buffering commitments, paths, open space, traffic. We're fronting the traffic improvements that are going to occur at Gender and Wright roads. We are fronting the city's portion of background traffic so that a light can be installed. This is a specific request of the Greater Southeast Area Commission to deal with existing traffic volumes, and we were able to do that. So with the exception of the design of the homes, which is actually not an item of Columbus City Code, which we think are pretty cute cottages and which we think meet the market in terms of not only affordability, but also the 55 and older market, I think this plan hits all of your high points, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Comack. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
I would first like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second. Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
And we now have the companion piece 1980-2017 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 336102 permitted uses of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 6261 Wright Road 43130 to permit an animal shelter with outdoor runs, cages, or structures for open air confinement of animals in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District, subject to an approved special permit from the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The applicant again is Homewood Corporation. The proposed use is a commercial mixed residential development. The City Department's recommendation is disapproval. Greater Southeast Area Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any additional comments from staff?
Councilmember Page, I would just like to clarify that we actually recommend approval of this council variance ordinance.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any additional comments from the applicant? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
And our final variance this evening, 1983-2017, to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332, 033, R2, Residential District, 331221, Landscaping and Screening, 331227, Parking Setback Line, 331249, Minimum Numbers of Parking Spaces Required, and 333221B, Building Lines of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 2058 Mock Road, 43219, to permit carry-out food sales with limited outdoor seating and storage with reduced development standards in the R2 Residential District. The applicant is Talisa Bowman. The proposed use is a carry-out food sales with limited outdoor seating and storage. The City Department's recommendation is approval. Northeast Area Commission's recommendation is approval. Are there any comments from staff? Is the applicant present? Thank you. If you could actually come down, there's a request to amend to emergency. Welcome to council, and if you could address the emergency request, thank you.
Good evening, President Klein and Chairperson Page. The client is requesting emergency status. We are in the process of having their site plan approved through the staff, and be it advantageous to my client to have the amendment for the emergency status, so as once the site plan is approved, that she can begin to use the property with her food truck, and not lose any money, can continue to generate revenue.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? I do see that we have a representative here, thank you, from the Northeast Area Commission. Are there any additional questions or comments? Thank you. I would first like to move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
And I now move for passage.
Second.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
That's all we have in zoning this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. Any other business to come before the Zoning Committee? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn regular meeting number 42? Clerk, call the roll.
Brown, Hardin, Page, Stinziano, President Klein.
We stand adjourned of regular meeting number 42. We'll take non-agenda speakers momentarily from regular meeting number 41.